And good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to this edition of Cruise Inc. Radio 102.8 TV. We have another fabulous show for you. Hope that you've enjoyed your terrific Tuesday. It is nice outside. It's like almost a fallish springtime. So if you've been out in the yard enjoying yourself, walking, doing some of the things you hadn't been able to do earlier on in the week, then we certainly hope you had a great time. I am just, it's when I was preaching, I always use this favorite term, hyena happy, peacock proud, and elephant elated to have our guests on tonight. You're going to be in for one, a insightful, inspiring young lady with a smile that will light up a city. So as we know, we have to pay for our bills to keep the lights on. You know how that goes, just like we do with Let's Talk Tuesday. We'd like to take this time to hear a word from our sponsor.
What happened was a machine came down, clamped both of my hands down, and had removed 6 digits. So I was in a bad situation. I didn't know what else to do, and I knew I needed some type of help, so I called a G law firm. They gave me confidence throughout the whole case that everything was going to be fine. They're not only lawyers, but they are family. Call the G law firm. I did.
The first thing that you need to do is to make sure you get yourself to as safe place as you can. Find yourself a competent attorney who practices in personal injury and will understand some of the things that you're going through. And as I tell people, for 33 years I've been doing this. I've had my own accident. So I would like to be one of those individuals that they would interview so I can at least try to find out how I can best help them myself.
And we'd like to thank the G Law Firm for sponsoring tonight's show. Also, we'd like to thank AK Venue by AK. If you're looking for a venue for your special event, whether it's a wedding, baby shower, bar mitzvah, can say, then that is the place that you really want to be. You can give her a call. That's Angela Knight at 804-874-6881. And now I know you guys have been waiting for this young lady. We've been promoting her all week long. And again, I told you she got a smile that will light up Richmond. But let me tell you just a little bit about her before I bring her to our stage. Dr. Shonda Harris-Muhammed has been serving in public education for over 30 years. Currently, she is the Director of Testing and Pupil Personnel in Southampton County Schools, where her focus is student performance and students' wellness while providing wraparound services for students who are unhoused and for their families in transition. She is a graduate of Norfolk State University with a BS in mathematics. And I know she's jumping up and down about Mike Vick signing to the green and gold. That's right, that's right. And also Walden University, Doctor of Education and Masters of Science. I told you she was a super smart lady. Dr. Shonda currently serves on the Richmond School Board, representing the 6th District. Dr. Shauna also served as the chair for the Richmond School Board in 2022, and she is a chartered member of Black Women Education Leaders, also known as BWEL, a national organization whose mission is to bring together individuals to address issues related to primarily to concerns, interests, advancements, and accomplishments, and special contributions of Black women in or aspiring to educational leadership. For several years, Dr. Shauna has served as ambassador for women's education leaders in Virginia, also known as WELV, where she's a part of the supportive system of women leaders statewide, supporting equity and appointing women to leadership positions in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Dr. Shauna is also a member of Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. Since 2008, Dr. Shauna has provided free school supplies to families and teachers in Richmond, throughout the Richmond area. Her nonprofit Northside Coalition. Let's get it right. I'm an educated person. I don't need to sound like I'm from the country tonight. For Children Incorporated, Dr. Shauna is the co-author of Unvoiced Pain, Releasing Depression and Anxiety, a book she co-authored with 8 other women who through life have fought depression, anxiety, and other forms of trauma, living her best life in Dr. Shauna's life, style rather. She resides in North Richmond with her college sweetheart Demetrius. They have been together for 30 years. Y'all get that now? Let me say that one more time. They've been together 30 years. They have 2 children. Anthony, better known as Tony, and her Sora and legacy Khadijah, baby boo. Let's welcome Dr. Shauna to the stage. How you doing this evening?
Hello, happy Tuesday, family. I hope everyone is well. I am blessed and highly favored. Thank you so much for inviting me and allowing me to be in the space with you on this Tuesday. Thank you so much, Mr. Cruz.
Well, we thank you for taking time out of your schedule. Just reading that, we know that you're extremely busy. And so we thank you for coming on board. And we know that we're going to have a great time tonight. Might not get to everything because we want to be mindful of time. But,
Sure.
once you hit that seat one time, you're welcome time and time again. I want to start off by asking you, in terms of where did you grow up here in Richmond, or are you from outside of the Richmond area?
So that's a wonderful question, but I want to just say good evening to everyone. And then look, just share with you, I'm not that busy. I don't have a lot going on. just a tad bit, just a
Okay.
bit.
I don't know now.
Um, Originally, I am from Louisa County, a town called Cuckoo, Virginia. That's a place. Cuckoo,
Yeah,
Virginia is a place. Has
okay.
nothing to do with my personality. So let me put my disclaimer out there. It's a town, Cuckoo, Virginia. I was born and raised um, in that town, right behind Philippi Church off of Route 33. Not many people know that on Route 33 in the town of Cuckoo is where the folk tale, the true folk tale of Fox Brown started. It was a slave who put himself in a box to travel all
Mhm.
the way to Philadelphia,
Right.
in that box, just with some many holes in the box to survive. So, right on that route is a Masonic lodge where the Masonics of Louisa County, my grandfather was a part of that Masonic lodge. My grandmother was an Easter Star member. They worshiped and they fellowshipped and they held their meetings on that route. So I am a country all day, unapologetically girl. I am a true country girl who married a city guy from Richmond, Virginia.
That is awesome. You come with a lot of history as well. Look, it was ironic. I saw that image, I think, not too long ago. And, sometimes you see things on social media like, oh, that couldn't be true. But thank you for enlightening us on that.
Mhm.
And just to know that you're from that rich history, I'm sure you can go back and really appreciate the history of African Americans and where we come from. And just in that story itself, it just talks about our perseverance and how we continue no matter what is going on, we overcome.
Absolutely. And the contributions that people of color made in Louisa County. Both of my parents were born and raised in Louisa County. I am a product of grandparents who believed in faith and building relationships with people. Definitely very spiritual in my home. My grandparents helped raise me. So a part of my life growing up, I would spend half of the year with my grandparents and half of the year with my mom because I lost my father when I was only 18 months old to cancer. And so I never really knew my father. And so I think as a part of healing and a part of making sure that I remain active in my grandparents' life, they came up with that plan for me because I was the only child by my father. And so, and at times it was rough, going back and forth periodically during the course of my very young childhood. But the experiences, the rich experiences, and a lot of the lessons that I've learned was in my grandparents' home. Okay. And so how to love. And of course, my mother taught me that hard work and building relationships, being loyal, being understood, service was first and foremost in my grandparents' home. Servant leadership was number one. And so I always saw them working in the vineyard, working in the church, working in our community. And so that's where I get the light or the bug from about services from my grandparents because I always saw them do that.
Did they inspire you, or who inspired you to go into the educational field?
Cruz, to be very honest with you, public education was not on my radar. Okay. My grandfather comes from a family of brothers. They had no sisters. My grandfather was the oldest. They all were in the military.
Okay.
And so being that I was the only child of my father and then a female at that, it was told to me when I was growing up that my father had desired to go into the military like my grandfather. And I said, well, since my father wasn't able to do that, then I'm going to try to do that. And so as a student on the campus of the Norfolk State University, behold the green and gold all day long, I wanted to go into the Army. And true story, I failed the ASVAB 4 times.
4
and
times.
so 4 times. And so finally, when I went home for break and I told my papa that, okay, I did not pass the ASVAB again, my grandfather said, baby, I think you need to do something else. I don't think the military is calling you. And so that was when, at that time, at that table, we were having supper. I said, okay, I don't want to take it again, and I need to have another plan. And so I had already entered into Norfolk State University with a major in mathematics and a focus in secondary education.
Okay.
And so because I had that concentration in education, because somebody told me to, I said, okay, let me go ahead and take the necessary courses and do what I need to do to position myself so upon graduation, I can be a teacher. But I did not, and let me repeat, did not want to go into public education. I didn't even really for real want to deal with kids at that time. And here it is over 30 years later. 30 years later.
30 years later.
I am yet still walking in the hard work of public education. And it's not what I do.
Mm-hmm.
Public education, teaching is who I am.
All right.
And even though I'm not currently in the classroom teaching mathematics, I still find time in my role as a director of testing and pupil personnel to go to schools and relieve teachers, tutor students. Some days I just need students. Because adults be adulting. So I need students. I need to go into a building and just hang out with kids and then let them tell me how hype I am. But needless to say, could that hype me up? That hype me up. But needless to say, just to go hang out and be with young people, to hear what they're thinking, hear their heart, work with them. I also serve as a hearing officer in my school division. So I'm everything student discipline and policy. And so sometimes I will meet students, unfortunately, on the other end of the table, dealing with some challenges and barriers. And yet again, even in that space of love, I am making myself available to learn from young people, because I mean, it is through them that I am able to do this work. Over 30 years later, it is through them building relationships with their families, and being able to be an advocate for them in more than one way that has allowed me to continue to walk in what I'm walking in right now.
That's so amazing, because again, it goes back to that servant spirit that you have. And before I get into some of the deeper question here, how was life at Norfolk State University?
Oh my gosh, life at Norfolk State University was amazing. It was amazing. I had the best so at that time, entering Norfolk State University as a mathematics major, excuse me, it was a 5-year program. That's how it was set up at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not staying here 5 years. So I did what I needed to do to graduate in 4 years. And I was so excited about that. And during the 4 years of my studies at Norfolk State, I met some powerful individuals with diverse backgrounds that when I go back to visit during homecoming and other times during the year, some of my former professors are still there in the mathematics department, or in the career development department, or in the School of Education. And so it is amazing. As a matter of fact, this past homecoming, I took a picture with Dr. S.J., one of my former math professors, and took a picture with a professor, retired professor in the School of Education. And one of the things that he said to me, he has a daughter at VCU. He shared that with me. And he said, Shonda, he said, I always knew. He said this in front of the executive assistant and another professor. But he said, Shonda, I always knew that you were going to do well in life, because even here on the campus, you had the tenacity and the fortitude to do things accordingly. You always had a dream and you always had a plan. And he said, I'm very proud of you. And you could have bought me for a penny. To hear him say that to me. And I thought he was like so difficult. Like he was that professor, like everybody had to have, right? If you're in this major. And so when he said that to me, I was like, wow, I was just like, ooh, just thank you. And I appreciate it. And I also told him that, you poured into me when I was a student here. Mm-hmm. And so because you poured into me, you didn't allow gender, race, cultural backgrounds, cultural differences, because he's from India. You didn't allow any of that to interfere with you building a relationship with kids. And so for that, I'm forever grateful, because you looked at all of us as winners. And so, I believe in giving people their flowers when they are above the dirt. And so I told him that, and we took a picture. And I told him that, I really appreciated all of the support and the no excuses that he took from us when we were students in his class all those many years ago.
That's amazing. I went to Lamorno in college in Memphis, and it's nothing like a HBCU school. Nothing like it. I mean,
HBCU.
you better sing. You better go.
Nothing like an HBCU. Nothing like it.
Nothing like it. And then you can sing. All right, then. All right.
No, just a little bit. Just a little bit. My grandmother was a singer. I'm telling you, my grandmother was.
You need to come down to karaoke and grab the mic. It don't matter if you sing gospel or jazz.
Listen now, I'll run the floor with some gospel. Okay.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Definitely. Now, you said something earlier that hits home for me, and that is going back into the classrooms and connecting with our students. How important is that still today in terms of understanding what's going on, with our students? Because people see them and sometimes they really, I think, misjudge our youth. What do you have to say about that?
Well, I think having a relationship with your youth in your community, in your church, in your ministry, wherever there is youth, there is life, right? My grandfather used to say, if you go into a church and ain't no babies crying, the church ain't growing. So if you go into a community and you don't have youth in the community, then the community is not thriving. That's one. And the community is not growing. That's two. And so you have to have youth in your community somewhere. And then you want them to thrive and you want their families to thrive. Youth sometimes don't believe in themselves, right? Because they come from a place of barriers and challenges. We all do, but they come from a place of challenges and barriers, and it's a cycle, right? And they have not seen, they have not observed someone in their space, in their immediate space, in their home, in their family, most likely that have what they define as being accomplished. Every single kid is not going to be an NFL player, an NBA player, an actor, a singer, all of those things, right? This is why when I was a teacher, I used to tell people, you need to have an A plan, a B plan, a C plan, a D plan. You need to have A through Z plans. Absolutely. And then you ultimately going to have the Lord's plan. But in between that, right?
Yes.
Make sure that you're working what you believe that you can do, regardless of what it looks like over there, regardless of what you have seen in your family, regardless of, as the old folk used to say, the curses that have gone through generations and generations, those generational curses. My grandparents always poured into me their generational blessings in this household. We don't walk in curses, we walk in blessings. And so that's how I raise my children, with that fortitude and belief and tenacity that, yes, you can do all things in Christ who strengthens you, because I believe in Philippians 4:13, but I also believe in works without faith is dead. And so many of our youth, we have defined as lost and forgotten and misunderstood. And all of those things are true, but it starts with the adults. Okay. And so sometimes we can't get out of our own way. And let's bring this closer to public education, because the adults in their lives suffered in public education. They suffered in the schoolhouse. They didn't have good experiences in the schoolhouse. That is often talked about and discussed in the household, in the car, on the bus, at a party, at a tailgate. And so children hear that. My mother often said that, when I was pregnant with my son, she used to say, you need to read to him. You need to talk to him. You need to rub your belly. You need to have conversations with your children when you're pregnant with them. And I did that. And you know why? Because I wanted to pour positivity into their lives, even in the womb. And so children hear this negativity. They hear the bad experiences of their family members and the people who love and care for them. And you know, unfortunately, we as adults, we pour that into young people. So that's why language matters. It's just not a MTSS model or a PBIS model. Language truly matters. And
Absolutely.
so when we are pouring into our children, we don't want to pour into the trauma that we had, because the trauma of anxiety that I suffered, the trauma of abuse that I suffered as a child, is not my children's story.
Say
And
that.
so we have to be mindful of what we're pouring into our young people. We got to show up.
Right.
Even when we think it's boring, even when we don't have an interest, we got to show up, because this is one thing I know about young people. I gave birth to 2 of them. Is that they know when you're fake.
Yes.
And they will call you out on that fakeness with a quickness.
Absolutely.
And so young people can identify people who have a heart for their foolishness, unfortunately.
Right.
And then they begin to build a relationship with you. And then they know they can build trust with you. So many of our caregivers, their family members, their parents, their guardians, have not had positive experiences in their communities. They have not had positive experiences in the schoolhouse.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they send their children with tiered levels of barriers, it is a generational habit. I ain't like the school. You ain't gonna like the school. They suspended me when I was there. They gonna suspend you. They suspended your brother and your sister. So children walk out the door and they walk into the classroom with that mentality because that's what they heard.
Right. Absolutely.
And that's not okay. Language matters. Testimony matters too, but we got to make sure we're pouring some good stuff into our young people and not the experiences that we had in our lives. I've always been transparent with my children about the things that I suffered as a young child, as a young teenager. But I also share with them that excuses are monuments that build bridges to nowhere. And those fools who use those tools of incompetence are masters of nothing. So don't allow the challenges and barriers that you have in your life to be excuses for you not to be successful or do things in decency and in order.
You about to make me stand up in this chair over here. I am serious. And that is, again, I have a fondness for, understanding what it takes. I call it boots on the ground mentality, because as you indicated, our children are very astute. They're very in tune, and they gravitate to those that have an idea of what they're going through. And this is where some people misunderstand why people get involved in gangs, why they get involved with cliques. That's simply because there is a kinship, a relationship that they see in that particular group. So to just totally dismiss our kids, I think that is a travesty. A lot of times, and we have to understand, as you indicated, some of the traumas that our kids go through and have been through, and it is pretty much, I like to say, they're still reachable. We just got to want to reach them and determine again how we're going to get across that bridge to where they are. We always wanted people to come to us, and I look at Jesus. He went where the people were, not where we want them to be or where he wanted them to be at that time. You meet them where they are.
Absolutely. The missionary work, right? The work of a missionary is not done inside of a brick. It's not done inside of a box. Missionary work, something else I learned from my grandparents. Missionary work is done in the vineyard. Okay. The vineyard is outside of the box, right?
Yes.
The vineyard can be actually inside of the box, but you have to be able to be expandable to reach the people. So you're right. You have to reach people where they are, not where you want them to be,
Absolutely.
but where they are currently. Excuse me. That happened for me in my life, for my 8th grade science teacher, Billy Adams, who met me where I was. That helped me with Colonel Brown in Chief Southall in my JRTC class in 10th, 11th, and 12th grade.
Mm-hmm.
That helped me when I was a student athlete, with Coach Burton playing basketball. That helped me as a student athlete when I was playing volleyball, with Coach Bird. And so I'm mentioning these individuals because at some point in my young adult life, going through middle school, high school, they poured something into me that made me to begin to believe in myself, right? Now,
Right.
I did have a school counselor to tell me I was not good enough to go to college, that I was not only was I not good enough to go to college, yes, he formed those words, he formed that sentence, but also began to share how I could not dare be a mathematics major. And so I graduated, I walked on the campus of Norfolk State University to prove him wrong. All 4 years attending NSU, I thought about him and I always saw his face. And it was my determination to prove him wrong. So when I received confirmation that I was going to graduate from Norfolk State University with a bachelor's of science in mathematics, I went back to my high school to make sure that the school counselor knew that Shonda Harris was graduating from Norfolk State University. And I did because I believed that I could. I've always had to have a fighting spirit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it is with the enemy not liking me, and I'm okay with that.
Right.
But I've always had to fight to be in righteousness. And I've always had to be on the battleground to do what was right, not just for me, but in me.
Yeah.
And I've had to dig in some spaces, and our young people do. Our young people. This is why when I meet with them, when I'm talking about their behavior challenges, and I look at them, and I say, let me tell you, I was you.
Mm-hmm.
Throwing stuff all over the classroom and acting all crazy. I was you.
Right.
Right? Don't let the stilettos fool you now.
Hello.
However, people poured into me and saw that I had this inner strength of greatness that I didn't always see in myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is why I poured so much into my chapter, into the unvoiced pain, because that chapter explains so much about why I lead the way that I do, why I walk with my head held high, why I work in decency and order, why I believe in young people being successful, why I believe in being an advocate for our young people, because I was them.
Right. That is powerful. They said, without a test, you cannot have a testimony.
A testimony.
Indeed. So you mentioned a chapter in the book. What inspired that book? And tell us, a little bit about the book that you helped co-author.
So the visionary Danielle Gilbert, who is also my sorority sister in Delta Omega, I call her my big little sister because sometimes she likes to boss me around. So I said that publicly, Danielle. If you're watching, I said it. I finally said it. And so she reached out and said, listen, you have a story that people need to tell. I mean, you have a story that people need to hear, that you need to share, that you need to tell. And I was like, okay, whatever. What story are you talking about? And so after talking and praying, listening, I listened to her a lot. And I listened to the voice of God. I joined 8 other women to tell our stories of fighting through anxiety and depression brought on by a myriad of challenges and barriers in our life. Mine was abuse. Sexual abuse that I had to face when I was a young child, and how I began not to believe in myself, and wanting not to live and go on because of the things that I was facing in my life. And so that chapter is I fought my way back, because there were points in my life where I didn't think I was going to be able to continue on, and to God be the glory that I am still here and have proved the devil to be a liar. Yeah. There were times where he literally wanted to take me out, and because I had praying grandparents.
Say that.
Who 10 toes down just stood in the belief and faith that this one you would not have, enemy. She belongs to the Lord. And so that chapter speaks to what I went through, what my sister and I went through, but more so my story, and how I was determined to not only live, but live a purposeful life.
Yes.
And in that chapter, writing that chapter was the first time I failed the ASVAB 4 times. It was not meant for me to be in the military. It was meant for me to do exactly what I've been called to do, and that is public education.
And I felt every bit of that, Shonda. And I think sometimes we are afraid to acknowledge our past, but our past is what makes us as strong as we are today. And not that we brag about it, gloat about it, but it's a teaching tool that will
it's a
help
healing moment for me. Continues to heal me.
Right. See, and I appreciate you sharing that with us, because again, people often they say you don't know what's inside of a book until you open it up.
That's right.
You got to open it up.
That's right. We often make perceptions about people. We often make judgments about people. We often create our own facade of images about people, and we have yet to turn the first page on that person.
Say that.
Don't even stop at the first page.
Right.
Go through the table of contents. Keep going. And so you have to be mindful. And I tell teachers this all of the time. When I was an assistant principal, I used to say it. When I was a principal, I used to say it, and I say it now in my hearing. You cannot judge this child by the mistakes of their mother, father, grandmother, brother, sister, cousin. I don't know. But
Absolutely.
this is a person. This is a new person. And so you can't judge them based off of what you even see on the social media. Don't even get it twisted.
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
Because we have people that live their lives through social media. However, every person has a story. Every person has a testimony. And so many years ago, Cruz, I made the determination in my life that I am not living for what people think of me
All
or think
right.
about me, but I am living in the greatness that is afforded to every man by the Most High. Now, if that appears that I may be arrogant in some way, okay, I that's their opinion. But
Hello.
what I'm walking in is the favor that my grandparents worked in the vineyard for. And
Yes.
because that favor on my family's name has been blessed and it's anointed, and I have no doubt that it is my responsibility and duty to continue to walk in the favor that God has placed in my life. Because the work that He has called me to do, there's a reason why I didn't take myself out. The work that He has placed in my DNA is going to be fulfilled.
Yes. We follow each other on Facebook, and every morning, you use the word to inspire, and that resonates. It just is an outpouring, and I thank you for what you continue to do each and every time. Where can they get that book? Because I know a lot of people are going to be watching this when they get home and going
Oh,
on
absolutely.
YouTube. Uh, please tell us.
So they can reach out to me um, if they would like to purchase the book, The Unvoiced Pain Releasing Depression and Anxiety. They can reach out to me on all social media. They can email me at Shonda.Harris-Muhammed, MUHAMMED at gmail.com. They can send me a message and I can send them the link. If they want to purchase it from me, absolutely, I would love that. You can also go on Amazon, but I would love for you to purchase the book from me.
Yes, man. Let's talk about the nonprofit because again, this is an extension of your servitude. Please, how did that all unfold?
Oh my gosh. Well, Northside Coalition for Children was birthed in my kitchen. My fraternity brother, the late Reverend Ralph Harris, and my husband, we were all in our kitchen talking about some students that live in our community, four young men whose parents at the time were incarcerated, and they were being raised by their great grandmother and their great aunt. And so we were trying to come up with some clothes, ties, some different things because one of them was accepted into the Mayor's Academy at that time. And so they were all, my husband was getting shirts and ties that he wasn't wearing anymore. So fast forward, I made the statement, well, what about school supplies? Because this was like March or April. And I said, well, they need school supplies for the remainder of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And they just looked like, and I was like, well, I got school supplies. We can get some school supplies. And so then that's how the first community rally started, was for those four boys.
Wow.
Two were at Henderson, former Jeb Stewart Elementary School, and then one had not entered school yet. And so in 2008 was our first back to school rally at then Chandler Middle School, which then reopened to be Richmond Community High School that same school year.
Right.
And NCC is like the third child that I have birthed because the meaning, the vision, and the heart behind it is because my first grade teacher told me in class on the first day of school, she embarrassed me because I didn't have school supplies. And so when I raised my hand to ask for a pencil, She said, and I remember this, and I'm 52 years old. She said, your mama sent you to school with no school supplies. Your mama ain't give you no school supplies. Well, I don't know if my mama knew to give me school supplies that day. Right. And so ever since then, that thing, it made me so angry that I was a hellraiser in her class. Yes, I was. I tore it up every day. I tore her class up every day that they had to move me to the teacher class next door. I mean, I was going in there kicking and screaming because she made a statement about my mama in front of kids. Well, she embarrassed me, first of all, which hurt me. And kids remember how you make them feel. People remember how you make them feel. And so I remember, even today, I remember her saying that. I don't say her name because she has grandchildren and children. However, I've had to forgive her because the only way I could be successful, I couldn't take my baggage, sitting Indian style, into what I'm doing right now. And so thus Northside Coalition for Children was born out of pain to serve children, to make sure that they had the supplies they need on the first day of school.
That is truly amazing. And I know I was like, I would see the news reports of it. I was like, man, that is an awesome thing to do. And just be able to have so many people to rally around you and to say, hey, we want to help. How did that make you feel that you saw so much community support over the last several years?
That people saw the Christ in me, that people saw my heart, that people wanted to help. There's always space for us to help. It's never about me. And the way that my family support, like this is our nonprofit, right? And the way that we work together to make sure that the children in the Richmond area is serviced before the first day of school, it blesses us because the way that I treat other people, that people treat mine. And so I'm always mindful of that. I want my children to be able to walk in the continued favor and blessings that their great grandparents laid for them. And so it starts with us. I can't treat children any kind of way. Right. And I won't do it. And so I won't treat people any kind of way. And so I'm always mindful of that, of how I feel, how I felt when my first grade teacher made that statement to me in front of the class. And sometimes adults walk into a classroom with their own trauma, not realizing that the children they're getting ready to interact with have trauma of their own.
Yes.
And trauma that begets trauma is a tsunami.
Yes, it is.
Trauma attracts each other. Dysfunction attracts dysfunction. And so in order to separate from that, somebody, normally the adult, is going to have to recognize what they're walking into.
I want to recognize a statement here that Miss Pat picked up on that I think she was shouting over there when she said, come on now, such a real statement. Children should not be judged by the mistakes of their parents.
Yes, they cannot. They cannot be judged by the mistakes of their parents.
Yes. They
cannot. Yeah. And we make them, unfortunately, live that every day.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That is why language matters. Language matters.
I don't think people get that there is life and death. You know, it says there's life and death, there's power and life and death in the tongue. And so we speak, we have to be careful what we're speaking into existence. So we have to do affirmation and not always tearing people down. And that's so much that you see on social media now is that all the negativity. And so I love the fact that anybody can go to your page at any time and find some uplifting, positive things. And I think, and I try to do that myself every once in a while. They'll try to tug on me, but I try to, just remember how good God has been to me and
Mm.
all the blessings that I see every day, and just, all right, Cruz, reel it on back in, because you got so much to be thankful for. As that song says, count your
Absolutely.
many blessings, see what
One
God
by
is doing
one.
one by one. Yes, indeed. So, and
You
that's
know,
where I hang my hat.
the hymnals are our life lessons.
Yes.
The songs that we sang in Philippi Baptist Church, Ebenezer Baptist Church, Rising Sun Baptist Church when I was growing up. Yeah, they were songs, but they were also victories. They were also life lessons.
Hmm.
And so that's why I'm so deeply rooted into my faith, because it was modeled for me. We went to church 8 days a week. I know it's only 7 days in a week. I know it's only 7 days, but we went twice on Sunday. And we
Yes.
stayed all day in Saturday, preparing for Sunday. And so church, I know, does not look the same or operate the same or function the same as when I was 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I get it. I understand that. But what doesn't change is relationships and building a relationship with the Most High and your faith.
Absolutely.
However you do church, right? We talked about missionary work. However you do it, whatever it looks like, that relationship piece is critical. And so what keeps me going, I talk about this in my chapter as well in the Unvoiced Pain, is I was able to fight my way back because of the faith that had been reared in me.
Hmm.
And that thing is real. I mean, it is truly real. And so our young people, I think, sometimes miss that, right? Because we have, as adults, moved away from sharing about our faith and
Right.
sharing what has kept us.
Absolutely.
And so when we talk about the violence and the gangs you mentioned earlier, and the things that our young people get into, sometimes you just got to go old school on 'em.
Hmm.
Come on here. Sometimes you just got to go old school. Old school never goes out of style.
Right.
And even though we have lost many young people to death and imprisonment along the way, what role has adults played in not addressing some of the magnitude and tier levels of trauma
Hmm.
that we have inadvertently placed on our young people? Now
Yes.
that's a whole chapter right there.
Absolutely. As an educator, as a board member, and as someone that's on the disciplinary board too, look at this statement from Miss Pat here. How adults in school system treat children. As again, a board member, when you hear about instances where there's been mistreatment of children in our school systems, what can a parent do to try to address that, or to try to rectify a situation like that?
It's hard to ask a parent to leave their emotion out of it when it comes to their children. It's hard. I don't lead with that. I don't lead by saying leave your emotion out of it. What I lead with is, I have heard you. This is what I heard you say,
Hmm.
and allow me to help you navigate through this. I heard you say your child was hurt by whatever, whoever. We need to address it. Let's get in the room, right? And when you get people in the room, you realize that what the person said is not actually what the person meant. However, it was still stated and it was still perceived in that manner. So adults got to adult up and apologize, and they
Yes.
got to make it right.
Absolutely.
because people remember how you make them feel. I can't stress that enough. And so own it. Parents always advocate for your children. But we got to advocate now. Here we go. Here, I'm getting ready to still love me at the end. Still love me at the end, people.
Go ahead.
We got to advocate in decency and order, man. We can't be going in cussing out everybody in the front office. From the rooted to the tooted.
Right.
We can't be throwing things all over the floor, turning over tables. Because here's the thing, anger matches anger. And when you're both angry, nothing is going to be accomplished.
Right. Absolutely.
And so we have to come with the spirit of calmness, of truth, because I'm going to meet you where you are now. I'm going to meet you where you are. But when adults hurt children, the family members, the parents, absolutely, they have to advocate. Because I will advocate for mine.
Hello. We talked offline, and I said, you said, how long are we going to be tonight? I said, well,
Okay.
I'm going to try to hold it down in 40 minutes. But this is why I call this conversations with you, because there's so much to unpack, and who knows how, the Lord's Spirit works in us. And so we can't put time frames on what God is doing, because I feel that this broadcast is going to help somebody to heal tonight. It's going to be inspirational, and they're going to go back and continue to look at this and share this. And I am so thankful for you to be here, because you shared some things tonight. And I think that people, if we begin to be a little bit more patient and have some compassion, we will stop misjudging people.
And grace.
Yes, grace. Grace. Ooh, that's a whole nother show that we can talk about. That we're gonna definitely get you back. But I want to get your insight of what 2025 is going to look like for RPS, if you could, please.
What will 2025 look like for Richmond City Public Schools? Student outcomes. I'm in this work for student outcomes. I'm in this work to ensure that our policies are equitable, that we have policies that are anti-discriminatory, that we're making decisions as a board, because it takes all of us. It's not one voice. It's not individual voices. It's one board, that we are moving in the direction of ensuring that we are supporting outcomes that produce anti-discriminatory outcomes. And so as a board member, my hope, my prayer, my focus will continue to be to lead in decency and order with solid governance, and ensuring that our policies are equitable for all of our students, because educational equality, educational equity, and educational justice matters for all students, regardless of their zip code. So it looks like, for me as a school board member, accountability matters, and also continuing to produce student outcomes that are producing the outcomes that we must see in all of our schools, K through 12. That's what RPS looks like for me in 2025.
I absolutely love that. And, the next time that you're here, I want to talk about restorative justice, because
absolutely,
that was a word that we kept hearing time and time again through this political era. And I really don't feel that that was people use that as a cliche. They use it as a talking point, but we really have not grasped what restorative justice is. in our school systems, and especially in our society. Because when I look at, just the Michael Vick being signed to Norfolk, I was reading an article and they was talking about all the, things that he had accomplished. And then they went back to that one part of his life, which, again, uh, restorative. We don't
Mhm.
understand what that word is, restorative. And
Mhm.
so it is sad that we can't allow people to remain in their greatness without having to bring up the stuff from the past.
And to heal and
Yes,
to move on and to continue to shine.
yes.
And each time, and this is for the audience that's watching, each time someone brings up a mistake that you made, continue to allow God to use you for the greatness that He is using you in. We all have made mistakes. We're not perfect. None of us are. And those who continue to remind you of your mistakes are running from something themselves. And so don't allow people opinions of you dictate the direction that you take with the Most High. Don't do that. Don't lose out on the opportunity to glorify God because someone has an opinion. This is good, better, and different. It doesn't matter what it looks like. Just always trust God's process. And I'm glad that Norfolk State University has given a young Black man, a young man, um, like Michael Vick, because there's so many Michael Vicks, um, the opportunity to shine in his greatness. And as an alumni of Norfolk State, as an alum of Norfolk State University, I look forward to supporting him and the team and Norfolk State University because let me be clear, athletics is one component of the
Hmm.
greatness of the Norfolk State University. It's just
Yes,
one component. We
yes,
also do great in our academics as well. And
absolutely.
so, um, you know, I look forward to continuing to support the university who birthed some greatness in me.
And on that note, that right there, that is a great closing statement. And I'd like to give you an opportunity, as we always do, if you want to shout some people out before we close,
I
go ahead and shout
yes,
them
I want to shout out my boyfriend,
out.
Demetrius, my husband, my children, Anthony and Khadijah. Shout out my colleagues from Southampton County Public Schools. Shout out Richmond City Public Schools because we
Yay.
love you here. Thank you, those who are not returning and those who are joining us in January of 2025. On behalf of me and my family, we wish you a very merry holiday season and a happy new year. Be blessed and thank you so much.
Dr. Shonda Harris-Muhammed. This has probably been one of the most insightful interviews that I've done in a long time, and I'm so glad that we were able to spend this time together. As Carol Burnett would say, I'm telling my age now, but thank you so much, and I'm looking forward to having you back and uh, you know
Absolutely.
talking about the progress of Richmond Public Schools, and then talking about what we need to do in the community to
Mhm.
ensure the success of our students, and making sure that they have the tools and the resources that they need to be successful. So I appreciate you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. You all be blessed.
All right, everybody. We've had a wonderful conversation with Dr. Shonda Harris Muhammad. If you missed any of it, you need to go to our Cruise Inc. Radio 102.8 Facebook page, or you can go to our Cruise Inc. Radio 102.8 TV YouTube page. So the information right after I close out, it will be available. And again, thank you so much. And as I always say, whatever comes from the heart reaches the heart. let somebody know how much you care about them before it's too late. As Dr. Shonda said before, give people their flowers while they're able to smell them, or, let somebody know how great they are. Encourage each and every day. And that's what I would leave with you. Encourage somebody, because a little encouragement can go a long way. All right, Dr. Muhammad, don't go anywhere. I'm going to close us out. I'll be right back here. Again, we certainly appreciate you all being here tonight. If you have any questions, comments, you can always email us at cruisinkradio@gmail.com. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you guys, love you guys, and we got to pay one more bill before we leave out of here.
What happened was a machine came down, clamped both of my hands down, and had removed 6 digits. I was in a bad situation. I didn't know what else to do, and I know I needed some type of help, so I called a G law firm. They gave me confidence throughout the whole case that everything was going to be fine. They're not only lawyers, but they are family. Call the G law firm. I did.
The first thing that you need to do is to make sure you get yourself to as safe place as you can. Find yourself a competent attorney who practices in personal injury and will understand some of the things that you're going through. And as I tell people, for 33 years I've been doing this. I've had my own accident. So I would like to be one of those individuals that they would interview so I can at least try to find out how I can best help them myself.